So YouTube's new AI policy is not what you think. I would think it's time that Roberto and I talk about YouTube Slop. We teased this in the last episode, card on screen for that. But if you don't know what slop is, and I think this is one of those conversations where people are like, who has defined slop? Well, we have our good friends Merriam-Webster, who have actually taken the time and they made it in 2025 their word of the year. And they define slop as digital content of low quality that is produced usually in quantity by means of artificial intelligence. So it says an AI enabled social media future also raises concern, and then you talk about AI slop. But Roberto, outside of our good friends Merriam Webster, what do you define as AI slop?
Well, if you left it up to me, AI slop means that, well, let's start with the slop part. Slop
Sure.
is low effort, low value, low quality, but then usually, but not always, then excels in frequency, consistency, volume, bulk. So it's bulk of something that is low value, like brain rot, gossip, any number of things that is not genuine of any utility to anybody. And then in terms of quality, it's low quality in the fact that you can see clear errors in it. It's not an enjoyable experience. And then there is the overall lack of effort, meaning that this is something that was clearly only done with text to prompt, click a button, so on and so forth. AI can enable all of those things, but a human being was doing that before. People were doing slideshows or static images with little or no voiceover or just animated. People were making slop on YouTube for the longest time. People were doing this before they could even use AI voice. People were ripping off content, doing very little editing and doing compilations. That was slop too. If you think that doing a couple of fancy graphics makes your content quality or makes you a good editor, and then you do that over sports footage that you didn't take, or you do it over a bunch of YouTube compilations of people's game fails or something like that, of gameplay you didn't do, you're still making slop. You're just doing it without AI, and manual slop isn't any better.
Very, very true. I mean, sometimes, like, I think back to some of the older content formats that, you know, they're not necessarily low quality, but they're just from a different era. Thinking of like YouTube poops, some people might look at that and be like, that's a form of slop, though I think they're
I
great.
would.
And so I think that, it's an interesting question because this has started a lot of comments over on my channel. I've seen it on yours, I've seen it on Opus Clip, and it is the idea of you can't monetize AI content on YouTube. I have found
Mhm.
this not to be true, but I
No.
would love your thoughts on that, Roberto.
Well, you clearly can. One of the best examples of this is Caleb Hammer. Caleb
Hmm.
Hammer is best known for his financial drama show that is a combination of Dave Ramsey meets Jerry Springer meets Dr. Phil. But then he also has the Caleb Live show, which is pretty much just the Dr. Phil and Jerry Springer aspect of it with their live podcast. But then he has another channel that people may not know about it, which is called Front Page, where they do these documentary style videos on content Caleb is interested in, but it's done almost entirely with AI editing and AI voiceover using Caleb's voice. And it's very obvious that it's AI based on the pronunciation and sometimes that words repeat. But the quality is actually very good. People like it. They do comment that it's AI, but they don't really hate it. The thumbnails are clearly AI generated. So the thumbnails are AI generated. Caleb Hammer does not do anything he cannot monetize. He's the money guy. Let's be real. So he's literally the money guy. He doesn't do anything he can't monetize. Thumbnails, that's AI. The script is clearly AI generated with some effort and some notes and some personal inflections, including possibly also his ad reads for his app that are in every one of these documentaries. So, okay, the thumbnail is AI, the script is largely AI, the voiceover is his voice processed through AI so that it could be text to voice from the script clearly. And it seems like the video editing may largely be, a lot of B-roll ran through some kind of AI tool that then narratively puts together something coherent. So I could make an argument that Caleb Hammer's front page channel around documentaries is 80% AI, if not more. But I can't say that it's low quality. It's a very enjoyable experience. The views reflect that, the growth reflects that, even the comments that aren't about the AI reflect that. So if you go and you look at it, you'll see that. So we can't argue that it's low quality. It's clearly high value given the topics at hand, like, oh, Twitch is dying, or oh, the tariffs are not what you think, or whatever it is. So it's things that people would be interested in, would care about, could be informative to them and educational. So we could easily argue, hey, there's an audience that would see this as value and not just to like a young, immature brain rot audience. We can argue that even though it's AI, we can argue for the quality as dictated by the viewers. So we have that. The effort, even with the AI, I can't say that it's low effort. The thumbnails, even with the AI, have thought, art direction, brand identity, and consistency. So we can't really say that just because a thumbnail is made with AI, we can't say it's low effort just because the effort is transferred to having the assets and having the art direction and then having the machine doing the mechanicals. You can't say that any more than if you outsourced it to a freelancer overseas for a couple of bucks. So you can't make that claim. I don't see the difference between a kid in the Philippines or Bangladesh doing it for $5 than an AI doing it for $0. I don't really see a difference there. People can harangue me if they want about that, but I just don't. And in a lot of cases, you get as good or higher quality, you get it the way you want it, and you get it faster. So, so you can't harangue it there. Script, the script, even if written by AI, is better than most YouTubers' performance in scripts as it is in the same content and genre. And again, very little difference between having to do the research and fact checking. If you're going to use Google to do that or anything, it's going to be AI driven regardless if you use Google. So for me, I can't the channel's 80% AI generated, it's monetizable on YouTube, and it clearly doesn't meet the criteria for slop that we outlined.
True. And I think a lot of this comes from, and I'll again pull up the handy dandy screen share, where people are taking it where YouTube made some updates to repetitive content where it was always a thing, and they're
Yep.
taking inauthentic content to mean AI. And I like how YouTube just came out and said this has always been, not okay. They're just enforcing it a little bit more. And I think the thing that I've
They're
learned.
primarily saying if you're stealing other people's footage.
Yeah, they even say it. If there's no change or reuse content, like they're pretty upfront about it. But what I found, and I'm sure you've found this as well, Roberto, and I'll put this in chat, is that if everyone actually read these things, we would have different conversations. Now,
Most of YouTube's policies relies or revolves around what I call the fair use mafia. People who think
hmm,
that putting a filter or an edit or interjecting their voiceover makes the content now original or derivative or makes it fair use. Hey, I edited this in a different order and I sampled from 100 videos to make this compilation. That makes it fair use. No, it's theft with extra steps.
and I do think, there are exceptions to that. There's an outlier for everything. But overall, I have to say that if you don't own it, this has been advice that I know all of us have given for years. If you don't own it, you're always taking the risk. And fair use, unless you're adding commentary, and like that's also something. Just saying,
And it
wow,
has to go
this is
further
cool.
than, yeah. Yeah,
And I
like
feel
all the
like
React content that gets copyright claimed, rightfully so. Yeah.
But I also wanted to say that I feel like when it comes to AI slop, a lot of times people are lumping all forms of AI into AI slop. I had this conversation with a gamer recently who's like, "Well, I don't use any AI in my content." I'm like, "Well, actually you do. It's just not in the way you think." Because Nvidia, and again, a lot of people associate Nvidia, but in around like 2015, with their DLSS, like they're using AI technology to upscale content.
Yeah.
So that is a form of AI, but it's not AI generative. And
Or when
so
you
yeah,
clean up your
please.
audio with one click. When you clean up your audio with one click, you're using AI. You just are.
Have our phones use it?
YouTube's entire system has been on AI. It was rebranded. It's called machine learning. YouTube's
Hmm.
processors and systems have been on machine learning since 2010. And the boys in marketing just rebranded everything to say AI instead of machine learning because it makes the stock price go up.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if think about computational photography, that's like
Yeah.
early forms of it, and like in the mobile phones, like people are like, my phone takes such good photos. What do you think is powering that?
Yeah. You take very bad photos, your phone is correcting it with AI.
And if you're using raw settings, maybe you actually do take good photos. And look, good
Maybe.
composition, good photography, you can take it using these tools. I don't doubt that at all. But I'm saying I keep seeing people say I use no form of AI, and it's like, well, you kind of do. So it becomes a slippery slope, just like how it could
Mhm.
be a slippery slope to slop. See what I did there?
Yeah.
So
Yes, I
I
see
had
what
an
you did. Yeah.
I see we had another question, and this came from a past live stream, and it's like, I've been told I by using AI in any form, it's automatically slop. What would you say to that?
According to who?
Mm,
Right? According to who? A very vocal minority of less than 1% of people who watched your overall video, who just have this inherent bias toward it. A lot of people don't realize that they are the same ilk of the people who said digital photography is not real photography.
I
And they're the
remember
same
that.
people who said Photoshop was not art 25 years ago. There's not a single argument I've seen against AI that was not made against digital photography and Photoshop. And I ironically used AI to cross reference this and find out that that's exactly the case. Every single argument, even the ethics arguments, there were arguments of using stock photography. I was there 20 years ago. If you use stock photography, oh, you weren't legit. You have to do everything yourself. Everything has to be original. Everything has to be handcrafted. Now, no one bats an eyelash out of it. Using templates in stock photography is completely valid. You're considered amateur hour if you're wasting time not doing it. It's like, well, why did you use a template for that? Or like, there's no excuse for it being this bad just because you say you made it from scratch. You should have used a template then. Like everyone will say that. Everyone will say, well, why didn't you just do this? Why didn't you just do that? Because what people want is they want the outcome, Andrew. They do not care. There's a small, vocal, and visible minority of people who care how the thing gets made. And for everyone writing about ethics, if you really care about it, break your laptop over your knees because you don't want to know how the components and parts got to you.
I think when it comes to AI, there are things where I think it's great. Additionally, there are times where I
Mhm.
think we're going too far. I don't know if you are aware of what Burger King's doing with their Patty AI, where it listens to the service workers to determine how friendly they sound, and it dings them to their manager if they don't sound friendly enough. I think that's a step too far.
I can see how that's a step too far, but as a consumer, customer for service for the last 10 years has been so trash that I wonder how mad I really am about it.
I feel for a lot of the workers, and I think that's something that's also,
I
I
feel
think
for the
people are,
workers, but I feel for the customer more.
oh, look, the customer is always right in terms of taste, but that's where I leave it. That's the full quote that most people slop off.
But that's the thing. But that's the thing, Andrew, right? It's like
Yeah.
if the majority of people, because here's the thing, there's no evidence that making AI makes people watch your content less. There's no evidence. I have evidence to the contrary. I have overwhelming data to the contrary. YouTube itself has overwhelming data to the contrary. That's why they have Google Veo 3. That's why they have Gemini Pro. That's why they have DeepMind. That's why Neil
That's why they have
Mohan
App
has embraced
Studio.
studio. They like it's like okay, they've literally found that net AI only means that people who otherwise would have made mediocre content can finally make acceptable content, and people who are already making acceptable content can make it faster in many cases, like Caleb Hammer. So and then this is the worst it'll also ever be. This is the worst it'll ever be. And then as for quality and value, if people love OG YouTube and authentic pre-AI YouTube so much, there's nothing that stops them from giving unlimited billions of views to the back catalog of OG YouTubers, the same way people watch 10-year-old films on Netflix, and I'm one of those people. But oh, they're not doing that. All they say is, oh, there's no new content to watch. Oh, there's new content to watch. Well, yeah, when you ask people to be on this treadmill, getting a fraction of a penny per view, and then on top of that, 30% of you want to use ad block. Oh, gee, I wonder why there's not this glut of quality, quote unquote, content for you to endlessly consume 12,000, 1,200 hours a year. Yeah, 600 to 1,200 hours a year of content consumption on average in this country. That's ridiculous. All right, yeah, if you need that much content to fill up your space and to feed you dopamine, but then you're demanding higher and higher quality for people at less and less money, and then you're insisting that they also not use the fastest means of producing it. Don't cry to me about creator burnout then. Don't cry to me about people quitting, and don't quite cry to me about a lack of, oh, you can't find any content to watch.
Yeah. And look, I'm not all for replacing humans. There's a lot of times where I do want a human involved. I think we both agree on that. I think people are under a lot, and again, I see this a lot on threads. I've seen it on X. I've seen it on YouTube comments are like, if you use any AI, you should disclose it. If you use, and I agree, if you're using generative AI or a way that could mislead, follow YouTube's AI policies, which are pretty clear. But I feel like
People
when it
say they
comes,
want that, they're going to be exhausted by that. If they like, they don't even read the damn terms of service, Andrew, for the tools that they're using, and then they complain with something, and then they claim they want you to disclose everything. Like, all right, real talk. If they did, are they even going to read all of that? You could just like, no. Well, I want you to be a verbal disclosure. Then all you're going to do is complain about it like it's another bloody ad read.
but also it becomes to a point where it'll stop mattering. Like right now, there's been a lot of research that the YouTube face, the exaggerated face, is starting to work less. And everyone's like, why? And I'm like, think about it from a human standpoint. Before the exaggerated face, we had calm faces, we had normal looking thumbnails. But to break
Yep.
out of the norm, you had to be a little more exaggerated, very big emotion. But guess what? When everyone's exaggerating and being do a big emotion, guess what stands out now? Calm. And in 5 years, you
Yep.
know what's going to happen?
It always
Exaggerated
cycles
comes
back around.
back.
Well, editing, over edit, like, okay, almost no editing for the first couple of years of YouTube. Then,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
editing. And then, less of it. And then, oh, edit, the Mr. Beastification, edit, oh, aggressive editing. And now it's like, ugh, you know. And then there was the, oh, make everything, oh, I don't want to watch anything over 10 minutes. Oh, now it's all long for, oh, now it's all shorts. Oh, then, oh, Shane Dawson documentaries. Oh yeah, I'll watch that for 70 minutes. And then it's like, oh, shorts. And then now we're back to, ooh, long form. Oh, now everyone's made for television. This thing goes in cycles, the
absolutely.
cultural cycles.
And I think that like Slop is the current cycle we're in, and I think that it's going to be interesting in 10 years because again, YouTube is 21 years old. It can
Yep.
drink. Congrats, YouTube. But
Welcome to the bar.
exactly. But the thing is I think for myself and what I've been, because I get a lot of creatives asking, like they want to use AI, but they're not trying to use it in a way, and that replaces humans. And I'm like, the problem is sometimes it's bigger than you, and you don't have to use AI that way. If you don't want to replace humans with AI, empower your staff to use AI. That's what you do, in
There's
my
that, but
opinion.
there's that, but I'm going to make another argument because I just
Please
want to
do.
play devil's advocate. I just want to play devil's advocate. Why not replace humans?
For
Why not?
me,
Think about it.
be-
If you hang on, if there's something that you don't like doing, why should you be as a human being made to suffer through doing something you don't enjoy or something that has very little utility to you or makes you very little money for the amount of effort that you're doing or takes you away from something you could be enjoying doing more, whether it's being with your family, being with your significant other, working on a different part of the creative process that you actually like. Tell me, Andrew, what is so wrong with replacing a human being? Because we do it all the time, where we do it all the time for exactly the reasons that I said.
because everyone wants a village, but no one wants to be a villager. And to have a village, you have to employ villagers.
Do you?
You do.
Think about it.
Because if
Think
AI
about it,
goes
Andrew.
down, which we've seen over and over again, Cloudflare being down, I've seen all these things going down. Look, at the end of the day, if everything goes down, I know Roberto, if I needed a good photo, I could call you and I know you'd
Yeah,
show up. And
but
that's
that's my
something I
point,
can't
Andrew.
reliably say with AI.
But that's my point, Andrew. Isn't this a good thing that everyone who's like mediocre or underperforms, we will just go to the robots, and anyone who's truly talented, they are powerful enough to where if someone wants a perfect bespoke experience, they can go to the most talented human being they ever have because again, for everything that doesn't require the most talented, most creative, most original human being, we're literally just going to reduce the craft to true artisans. That's what it means. And the people who will and afford to pay them. There'll be no more people haranguing. Think about it. When you lose a customer that says, oh, I'll just do it with AI because it's cheaper, if their argument is it's cheaper, you are losing the most frustrating customer, the most frustrating client. You and I have done enough freelance work. Andrew, were you sad to lose your cheapest clients?
Not really. And usually what ends up happening in my experience anyway, so use AI, then they come back and be like, hey, so it's not working. And it kind of has been the opposite effect. But
Well, then the
again, it
answer is the
depends who
price
you
is now
are.
double. Now the price is double. Right. It's like, so here's the thing. I think you will shrink the number of humans. Yes, you will eliminate some human beings, but you will reduce it now to human beings who can charge at a premium for being human beings and who will be given the grace of saying, you want a human being. That means faults and all, warts and all, imperfections and all, because that's what a human experience is. I think we get to put a price on human experiences when you make everything, when the marginal cost of everything to be just okay becomes zero, the value of something that is excellent goes to its true market value because now you've made it rare.
Mhm.
When you make something abundant, you make it cheap. The glut of human, think about this. This is why people hated Fiverr. You were a freelancer. Everyone hated Fiverr because it offshored and outsourced the domain of high price premium freelancers and reduced it to $5 a pop. And every high tier freelancer complained about it. They absolutely complained about it. They hated, oh, everything was anti-Fiverr. Even I was somewhat anti-Fiverr in the early days. They improved and they actually made some things much, much better. And they started raising quality standards. And now there's the pro tier, et cetera, et cetera. But those same people who pushed out the bespoke high premium freelancer are now afraid of themselves in many ways also being replaced by AI. Ironically, because that's who's really upset. But ironically, the people who know that they built their reputation, they built their relationships, they have 5, 10 years of human networks that they've built by hand, that will always come to them and want what they provide and know that they can't get what they want from an AI. Those people will have the ultimate moat and their rates will only go up.
Well, I also think in just thinking broader, right? You ask why would I do a human right now, and we're in the US, Roberto and I, so it's important to note that AI generated works, they don't get copyright protection. And that's exactly the kind. You ask me when I'd want a human. Boy, do I want a human there. I want to be able to
Mm.
copyright my work.
But there is nuance to that. There is nuance to that,
Oh, I'm
Andrew.
aware. I'm
If
aware.
Yeah, if you draw it first, or you commission an artist to draw it first, and then you augment it by AI, you still have the trademark, you still have the copyright.
Yes, but that's still artist first.
Yes, but that's my point is everything's not a zero sum game and it's not an
I
either
agree.
or. The human plus the AI will beat either, but I'll be honest, most AIs will beat most humans, and this is the worst they'll ever be, while this is also probably, unfortunately, the best most humans will ever be.
What I've noticed, and I would love your take on this, I've actually noticed a lot of students start to use AI to teach them, and they're using it as like, teach me this skill. And I had a couple of students, I work with Adobe in their mentorship program, and a couple
Yeah.
of the students are like, hey, I didn't know how to do this. I asked AI to walk me through step by step, and they're actually using it as a teacher, and the work they've been doing is pretty effective. But then,
And that's
does that
excellent on
count as
command.
AI work? That's the next question. Because
Not
the AI
that,
taught
because
them.
it's no different than if they it's just the learning method. It's no different than if they had learned from a DVD made by a human, a book written by a human. There's no difference. And even the AI was trained on the things that came from a human being. So there isn't
Exactly.
really an elimination of a human because the AI is going off of previous human work. AI is made in the image of its creator. So it doesn't matter. In my opinion, that's like, I mean, that's my hot take. My hot take is AI is only made in the image of its creator. You haven't eliminated a human. You've just made it derivative in a chain, but you've also narrowed it down to extracting only what you wanted without having to deal with the other failings of the human point of origin. Meaning, yeah, you could learn from Roberto, but Roberto won't be available at 3 a.m. when you're having racing thoughts. So yeah, use Notebook LM, use Gemini Pro, use Grok, use whatever, use Manus. Like I will, because I won't be there. I'm not taking your call at 3 a.m. I'm just not going to do it. So that's an availability. So think about it though. But if you had the wisdom, or if I build Ask Roberto GPT, if I build askroberto.com or something, if I do that, and then ultimately you have, well, it'll be what Roberto said because it's a library of every transcribed video he's ever done on YouTube, plus fed from his book and some like privated knowledge he put into the database, and it'll contextualize that. It'll source what video he said it in because it has the full transcript library, and it will give you a link to the video. One, nothing bad happened to Roberto because if you go watch the full video, I get the ad revenue anyway. If you don't, it's still attributed to me anyway, and then you still got from Roberto. The difference is you didn't get Roberto being surly because it's 3 in the morning and you woke him up, or because you forgot to feed the Roberto. Just to
Or you
bring back
forgot
that
to
meme.
give, you got to give Roberto water as well. I've seen you at events. I know what you're like. Sometimes Roberto's the kind of person. Roberto might actually accidentally, if you get him food and water long enough, you might get him at 3 a.m. But I don't know if Roberto wants to be up at 3 a.m.
Usually not. Usually, but I'm using this. I mean, like the rant is funny because this is entertaining. It's Saturday morning. We got to have some fun with it. But I am interjecting a point that what AI provides is abundant convenience,
Hmm.
scale, and at speed. And that's something that most human beings don't provide. Most human beings can provide a unique experience, something that's never come before, but that's not what we need majority of the time. We need that very selectively. And we can pay a premium when we want that selectively from a specific individual. But in general, what we need is we need something. And if we don't get it and we don't get it fast, it's usually creating a lot of inconvenience for us. It's creating a lot of problems in our life. If we could have something in 5 minutes instead of an hour, most of us, our time is so spread thin as it is that getting it in 5 minutes would be meaningful. It's why we have microwaves when we all probably would be healthier if we cooked. We'd all be healthier if we cooked. But the trade off is the marginal difference on the health, which may not be marginal, like versus, oh, the difference on the time, which we do value at a premium. So it's a matter of your trade offs. And that's what people are doing with AI. It's the trade offs. And there are some scenarios where there is just no way to compete with it in terms of the speed or scale. The amount of time, Andrew, for the tools I've been building for building things. Because here's the thing, no one's mad at, I think that it all comes down to this art or content situation. Andrew, have you had anyone tell you that they're mad at people building apps, tools, and software with AI and replacing
Yes,
coders and
but
engineers?
I'm also in a weird spot where I've had enough time in the tool space where I'm dealing with people who are I'm a unique case, but
Okay.
I have the answer is sadly yes for me.
All right. Are they the vocal, visible minority or are they the overwhelming majority?
In that space, it's a pretty common sentiment, but outside of it, they would be considered a
Well, I'm saying for the
minority.
consumer. Well, I'm really talking about the consumer. Is the consumer railing against tools that have served them that have been built with AI?
I've not seen a lot of it. I feel like I call it when people are upset when it's like vegetables, you hide it. I think that's what people don't like is when you're not upfront with it.
Okay, sure. But let me ask you this. If tomorrow Da Vinci said, we built an AI tool that will read your entire script of all of your content, select from all of the folder that you give us for the video footage and B-roll. And then we will give you an ordered script of the best moments, selected the footage and match that and give you a timeline that you can still manually edit. But this is brought to you by AI. Are you really going to be mad, Andrew?
I mean, Firefly already is working on that. They've talked pretty open about that. So it exists. For me,
Mhm.
no, because it's funny. I was at Adobe Max when they announced that AI would help people layer and organize their layers in Illustrator. That crowd cheered to the point where I'm like, wow. And so I think in that case, no for me. But I also think it comes down to choice. I think that's also something people want is the choice to do
Mm.
it that way.
Sure.
And I think that as long as there's choice, that's where I stand. Is if I can choose to do it with AI or not, that's all I want.
Okay, that's perfectly fair. I don't think most things are taking away that choice, but I also think that this is going to become so ubiquitous.
Yeah.
I think it actually is ubiquitous. I think that because you can just say, well, if I just say ML, I'm disclosing it. So the people who are mad at AI, they're not going to look up ML, machine learning. So I think people are having it both ways.
Hmm.
Because I think if you had a crowd that was anti-AI, and then in all your marketing material you just say machine learning, then they will never see red. They'll never get angry and see red and have the steam coming out of their nose and ears because the only thing that's triggering them is the word AI. But that's it. And I've seen it with my own eyes. Um, if you literally run a poll against most anti-AI people that aren't in the tech space. And you say, well, what would you prefer? Would you prefer things that use? Would you prefer um, you know machine learning tools like blank or things that use AI like blank? You're going to see those same anti-AI people just vote for the machine learning because they're not voting for machine learning; they're voting against AI, and they wouldn't even know that it's literally the same thing. Or if you said, hey, would you prefer that this is handled by a real time AI process or a scheduled cron job? The average consumer is going to say, oh, yeah, use scheduled automation. Like, don't use AI. That's like it's like they don't know the difference, and that's my point is I'm not saying you should ever dupe people, but I'm saying that people are easily fooled or fool themselves because they don't understand what these things are. They really don't. Just to our earlier point, they don't understand what slop is. You could have slop, and we had slop on YouTube for the majority of YouTube's lifespan without it even being AI. Without AI, people were stealing content all the time, left and right, Andrew. Without AI, people were doing all kinds of things and then screaming, fair use, this is unfair, this is unfair. And now they're just doing the same thing with AI. These are human centric problems. The AI isn't the problem.
No, and I don't disagree with that. I think with the way I look at AI, and in terms of something a lot of people are aware of, it gives a median value. And there's a lot
Yeah,
of things that give a medium good enough value. IKEA furniture is a great example that most people are familiar with. It is a median quality. It can last you years. It can maybe last you 5 weeks, depending. And it's a median level of quality. But that doesn't
yeah,
mean there's not cheaper options that still exist. And that doesn't mean that there are not higher man-made options exist. The difference is that when you go to IKEA, you're building it yourself, so you feel like you're putting more intentionality behind it. But at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff is cut by machines, not people. And you're the only time that people are involved is the assembly that you're now paying the luxury to do, right? So
yeah.
it didn't eliminate high-end furniture, and in fact, that became more of a high-end commodity and a luxury. And I
Exactly. The
think
price and the price reflects that.
yeah, and I think that that's what I keep seeing is like the creators who already were valuable before AI have just been like 2xing their output. And
Yeah, they're priced at a
as
premium.
yeah. And I think that if you're getting started, look, I get not wanting to try AI, but I also have seen in curriculums, I've seen it in colleges. I work with a lot of students thanks to different programs I'm in, and they are all getting told about AI, right? So this also goes to I've been in production sets, I've got to talk to a lot of legacy editors, and a lot of them said that the ones that did not want to move from traditional film cutting were left behind. And I think that's something
Hmm.
that scares people. The idea of being left behind and the idea that, well, I don't want to make slop, but I don't want to be left behind. What would you say to someone trying to balance that?
They're conflating an either or because in their mind using AI equals slop, but that's also a very small circle of people that have told them that. But those small people, circle of people, if if you or I challenge those people who say AI equals slop to define slop without mentioning AI, they would struggle to define it. And then if they did, we would say, so all AI does is create scale of it, but you weren't railing against this when humans were doing it, were you? Which makes you a hypocrite. Because now you're not complaining about the output, you're complaining about the method by which the output was made. So you're not complaining about a bad thing because right, if you ask them, okay, does slop equal bad? Okay, because why is AI slop a problem? Is it because of the slop or is it because of the AI? They'll say, oh, well, probably both. It's like, okay, is AI bad? Yes, they'll say yes. All right, is slop bad? Yes. Okay, so where were you when all the human slop was happening? Ah, hypocrite. So it's okay. So you only care about a bad set of content that abuses the system, possibly breaks the rules, may or may not be monetized, probably is not good for the platform or the consumer. You only care about it when a machine does it. You only care about art theft when a machine does it. You're okay with bad outcomes, bad actors, and art theft when a human puts effort into doing the theft and doing the bad content and the bad behavior. Got it. So that's just a bias. And it's not necessarily a rational argument devoid of emotion or prejudice. And so that would be the problem I would have. So my answer is you can make AI content, like I said with Caleb Hammer, without it being AI slop or slop in general. You can make content and be a human being, and it can still be slop. It can still be trash. It often is. There's a reason why 88% of all long form content on YouTube does not have 1,000 views, Andrew.
It's true. I also want to open this question up to you watching whether live or replay. What is your definition of slop? Because before it was with AI, I come from the South. We have lots of mixtures. I think of pig slop, which was like food waste, scraps, usually milk or some kind of water, and then it's like usually fed to pigs, right? And it was easy.
Yep.
Nowadays, people call Chipotle and Kava corporate slop bowls because it's just a mixture of all those things to get you through
But I
the
love
day.
Chipotle. But I love Chipotle.
Right.
And
But
everyone loved Chipotle until they started having a problem with corporate or certain corporate decisions. Chipotle was beloved just 5 years ago.
I have a problem with the prices, but I still pay them, you know, because at the end of the day, it's consistent enough. And I think we have something from the Angela Denise here who says, honestly, that line of 88% of videos ever posted to YouTube never gets 1,000 views. It's so alarming. It makes me more appreciative of the views that I get.
Absolutely.
And I think
Yep.
that, you know, that's something a lot of creators feel as well, though. They feel like, oh, I'm having to compete with AI for views. I'm having to
No,
compete
you're not.
with I'm like, we're always have kind of been in an attention economy.
Yeah.
And with shorts getting 200 billion daily views, I'd argue there's not a supply problem. There's a demand, like there's a demand. So we have actually a lack of supply.
There's,
And
well, yeah, I found that to be true. It's still not satisfying enough people because people do not realize that the average person literally watches 100 to 200 shorts per day.
yeah, and that's just on YouTube, not including the other platforms. And I
Yeah.
think that's something, you know, a lot of times people are like, YouTube is filled with slop. And it's like these platforms are also going to reward you on your watch behavior. So one conversation I see that I've been having with people is like, I don't want to make slop. And I've literally stopped them and said, then don't make
So
slop.
I don't understand the obsession for slop if people don't think they have an audience of pigs.
Hmm.
Think about it. If you're not making for pigs, why are you even worried about slop? And why are you worried about the slop consumer? Do you think J.R.R. Tolkien or J.K. Rowling stayed up at night, Andrew, worried about what tabloid writers are doing and what tabloid readers are doing?
Can't say. I don't
Probably
think
not.
so.
Do you truly think that like a great fantasy novelist loses sleep because there's a tabloid writer somewhere making money?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think C.S. Lewis cared that somewhere there's someone. Do you think that a great filmmaker and auteur cares that somebody out there may be watching Jerry Springer?
I mean, people love, you know, Christopher Nolan. They say he's one of the most auteur filmmakers of all time, and he's on records that his favorite film is Talladega Nights.
Right. But I'm saying, but he doesn't care that people enjoy what they enjoy. His
Right.
audience will be his audience. Like the thing that is for you will be for you. If you're not catering to that audience, if you're not, are you really fighting for the attention of the slop audience? Do you want the attention of the slop audience? I don't, Andrew. I really don't. So who cares if that's not your audience? So to me, the conversation becomes it's a concession to say, because here's the thing, because you know who I hear this from, Andrew? I hear it from people who know that they're not necessarily making high quality or high value content. The people I
Hmm.
know making high quality, high value content do not really worry that much about this. Again, some of them do because some of them might be just in their feelings or they have a defensiveness of craftsmanship or whatever. So, like people who are more artsy, it depends because that can be philosophical or ideological for them. But from people
Mhm.
just from a straight up, oh, I care about making a living standpoint, most of them don't feel threatened because they're like, that's not my target audience. I'm not going to lose anybody over this. They're not going to settle for this. They're with me for a reason. They have confidence. So I think a lot of this is about like Andrew, the AI slot conversation for me is giving insecurity. It's given insecurity.
Mm.
Like, think about it. The If you're a great artist, do you really care that there's someone out there tracing? It sucks. It may be offensive, but it's like, okay, when push comes to shove, like people aren't really going to go for them and they can't really deliver and they can't deliver consistently. Think about what you said. If you take away all these tools and all these things, I still know how to create a ton of value even when I don't have the benefit of technology. Think about it, Andrew. I can go on a stage and I can coach in person with no jump cuts. I
Well,
can
I've
do
seen
live
Roberto
streams,
have
no
it
jump
without anything. Technology
slides,
has failed you multiple times live, and I've seen
slides,
Roberto recover.
microphones, like right,
Uh huh.
like slides, microphones, everything but the lights going off, and I probably can like power through that.
I know
That's
Roberto.
real.
He'd turn on his flashlight.
I would. So like the talent, so talent will find a way, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody is overly reliant on all this stuff, oh, well, if it goes away, or if a policy changes or platform changes, oh, then they're doomed. Andrew, they could take away fair use tomorrow and 90% of YouTube will die off. I'll be fine. You'll be fine. Think about it. Do you and I really need fair use to exist? It's nice, but do we need it to succeed?
Yes, because technically enough legal cases have had to have passed for us to be at YouTube at this point. So technically,
I'm
yes.
saying I'm saying if you do everything, Andrew, I'm being very serious though. I'm saying if you do everything and they say YouTube can still exist, but everyone has to make 100% content that they own without or that they've licensed, and you can't do something and call it derivative, um, will you and I still be able to make the same caliber of content that we've been making?
Yeah,
It'll take a slightly more effort for us barely, but we would. I can't say that for the majority of content creators. I'm making not making an argument for fair use to go away, but I'm making the point, what if it did? What if this policy changed, this policy changed? I'm making the point that while I can advocate for the tools or the policies existing or being better or being different, you should be positioning yourself to where it doesn't matter.
yeah. We have a question here, and this comes from the Angela Denise. Do you feel that is beneficial for everyone or just YouTube? Some of my peers feel like they may be losing sales to channels making lower effort content. And then to clarify, I'm speaking of the parameters for YouTube shopping being lowered. So do you
So
think it
YouTube
is
shopping was
beneficial?
lowered to 1,000. So YouTube shopping was
5,000.
lowered to no, they announced it. It's now 1,000.
It's now
I was in
1,000
person.
again?
Yeah, here, breaking news. While I'm here in Austin, and while we were at, because I was with Angela at the YouTube
You were correct.
workshop here in Austin, is now been so breaking news. YouTube Shopping affiliate is now available
Wow.
at
30 minutes
1,000
ago. That
subscribers.
is like really breaking. Oh,
Yeah, so breaking news. You heard it here first. That's why you got to tune into the Opus channel on Saturdays. Um,
amen.
but the more you know. That being said, so let's think about this. That still only limits it to the 3 million YouTube partners worldwide, Andrew.
True.
And of the 3 million YouTube partners worldwide, I don't have exact numbers on this, but if I remember, it's less than a million YouTube partners in the United States.
That would check.
So, so if it's less than a million YouTube partners in the United States, given it's 3 million globally, I really don't think that there aren't enough sales to go around, because you have to think YouTube in America has over 200 million consumers in America of YouTube content um, in America. If there, let's say there are 1 million channels in the YouTube partner program, not all of them are even going to use YouTube shopping. Not all of them are going to try. And especially like in Angela, she's in the beauty space. So
Sure.
out of the 1 million monetized channels in YouTube, Andrew, how many of them can be beauty, makeup, and fashion?
A percentage of a percentage there.
And then if, of the 200 million YouTube viewers, 50% of them are female, that means you have 100 million roughly female viewers. So I'm just running math here. There's no way for there not to be enough sales and enough attention to go around. The math just doesn't support that.
And it's also
Because,
not
yeah,
available everywhere too. So that even lowers that because like some
but
like
I'm
I
even just
know,
talking US. Yeah, I'm just talking
yeah.
US though.
And
Because think about it. That's
Doug
where, if
says,
you
"Can we
want
get
to
it to
worry about
Australia?"
can we get rolled out? I'll beg for it for you guys, Doug. But this is my point, Andrew. Even in North America, people talk about AI slop. They talk about competition. They talk about this. In North America, there are only about 95,000 YouTube channels with even 100,000 subscribers. Okay? So in terms of channels that have absolutely definitively been proven to be supported by the audience. And then think about it like this, like between 50% of that will be a combination of retired YouTubers, corporations, and celebrities who don't really do anything or engage with their community. So you really actually only have, in terms of active silver play button or higher channels in North America, probably 60,000 if I'm being generous, and I'm including a combination of long form and short form silver play button channels, and that's across maybe 300 plus niches, 60,000 silver play button channels. So aside from like all the subgenres of gaming that will make up the majority of that in North America, Andrew, how much competition, real competition, can anyone really have? It's not that bad. So I just don't feel the scarcity. I understand like people feel that way emotionally, but I've ran the numbers, And it's like the future's bright. The numbers are good. The numbers are forever in your favor, statistically speaking.
Yeah. And you know, we have another one from the Angelini's. A lot of the beauties at the event were kind of complaining about this because we put so much effort into our content, or at least I know I do. And again, your audience is going to buy where they want to buy. Sephora can't be upset when people buy drugstore makeup. Like that's always going to happen, even though Sephora might have higher quality stuff. Likewise, when you're in an intention economy, people, when they need what you have, you know, when you're there, that would definitely be something that helps. But like, YouTube and Google Business actually put this out that the average like click-through rate on YouTube shopping products in 2025 was about 0.91%, which is pretty low. And so making it more common, in my opinion, probably what they're trying to do is normalize it, because when it's only a
Yeah.
select few that do it, it looks like it can be a little less. But you compare it to their competitor TikTok, who like pretty much anyone can do TikTok shop,
Yep.
like they also have to keep up with that too.
There's just, Andrew, there's just not enough people really don't understand that there's just so few AI channels compared to human channels as it is. And there are so few channels relative to the number of YouTube channels there are. There are 115 million YouTube channels in the world, and there are 3 million YouTube partners in the world. There are a very limited amount of successful YouTube channels in North America in the partner program to begin with. Andrew, and then what percentage of those AI is less than 5 years old? It's been good for less than three of those years. Like, how many AI channels do people really think exist that they have to compete with that are in the YouTube partner program? Even with AI, the majority of channels can't get into the partner program. It's fighting phantoms, Andrew. It's ghost. It's ghost. I'm not saying they don't exist and they're not real, but your chances of this haunted house taking you out are so minuscule that you just have a better chance of winning the lottery than really losing to an AI channel at this point, from my standpoint. That may change in 5 years, but as it stands, not so much. There's just so few of them. Most people cannot name 10 AI slop channels competing in their niche. That means that they're irrelevant. If you can't name 10 AI slop channels that are monetized, or for real monetized, that have 10,000, think about it. 97% of channels don't even get to 10,000 subscribers. So what threat can AI slop channels be if 97% of channels can't get to 10,000 subscribers? Name 10 AI slop channels in your niche with 10,000 subscribers or more. If you can't, they're not a threat.
Well, even to that front, like YouTube is actively working on taking out some channels that are fully AI that don't fit their policies, and they're getting it from both sides. They're on one side, they're
Million
too
subscriber
anti.
channels, by the way.
Yeah, they're on one side they're too anti AI, and on the other side they're not anti AI enough, and it's like this weird middle position they're in. And I think
YouTube
that's
can do
also,
nothing right and please no one.
yeah, it's a catch 22, and we all hate it when we're in that situation, and yet we're on this platform for free. That's another thing, right? Like, what is the cost of a free platform?
That's fair. It's a good question.
And if the cost is that you have to filter out AI content manually, is that a cost you're willing to pay?
Fair.
And we have a thing here from the Angela Denise who said, one of the panel members mentioned this exactly, Andrew, that they're just trying to normalize the YouTube shopping experience. I mean, that's just the like human side of it, right? And that's me thinking as a human, understanding humans. And like there's still value in human first. Like no one is saying replace all humans with AI. And when they do bring that up, it usually ends up being a theory question. And what I've learned is someone who's been in the corporate space and who has seen AI try to be introduced, it still takes people understanding what AI can and can't do. We're early days of this. These are the same kind of conversations people had. Well, the car will never replace the horse and carriage, but look at us now. I don't know the last time you
You
were in
know,
horse and carriage,
the last
Roberto.
probably a couple of years ago in Central Park,
Fair
but
enough.
I think that this is just going to become so normalized and ubiquitous. And the thing is, I think that people won't, aside from people disclosing it, which I think they should. They'll just come a point where like people don't care, because what they'll care and what people have always cared about, Andrew, is like how something comes out, how it makes them feel. And the thing is, I've done this experiment where I've shown people things and then challenged them to detect whether it was AI or not. And 80% of people that I've played this with cannot detect AI accurately 5 out of 5 times. They just cannot do it. Um, because it's getting that good, and they like feel some kind of way. And a lot of times they feel bad when they think something is AI and then they find out it's human because they put an unfair bias on um get a negative reaction to something, and then to find out that it was human and not AI, they then change their mind and they feel bad. But I'm like, so is your emotion authentic? You're talking about authentic content. Are you having authentic emotion if this label changes how you feel with nothing else changing? Is your emotion then authentic? And they're like, I don't know. I think I have to sit with that. And I go, well, maybe you should sit with that, because think about it, Andrew. If we change how we feel when we're given slightly different information, and then it taints our experience, which is the real version of us? The version that experienced that thing in the moment and felt that way, or the version of us that now views it differently with the curse of knowledge? Which one of those, which one of those is the valid experience? That's a really tough question.
It is.
I
And
can
I
argue
think,
it both ways. I'm just
yeah.
making the case, because like me, again, I don't mostly even have to use AI for my content. I don't have much of a horse in this race, Andrew. I use it to like what, clean up my audio, maybe tweak something on a thumbnail or remove a background or generate a green screen, which I could also just grab a stock photo that I don't like versus generating so like my reasonable thing is, for me, I don't even have a dog in this race for the most part, Andrew. The only thing I really use AI for is to argue with Grok and to build software. I use it to argue with Grok and to build software, and everyone who sees my software loves it. So, I mean, for the generative stuff, I don't have a horse in this race. I'm just arguing and playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, and I'm testing it out because I don't want to be left behind the same way a lot of people are. I see from live stream consultants, they say, as a reasonable direct relation, I'm old enough to remember all the uproar about Adobe Photoshop ruining the photographic industry, as you were mentioning earlier, Roberto. It did not. It just changed, same as film to digital. And look, I think someone earlier is like, why are they fighting? They're thinking you and I are fighting. Roberto and I are just having a conversation. If we were really
Yeah,
fighting, I
no,
don't think we'd be coming back every Saturday.
no,
like, but
no,
like
no, no. Your
even
your parents aren't fighting everybody. It's fine.
But like even in that, right? That was a human interpretation of humans and it was wrong. Just like AI
Yep.
can be wrong.
It can hallucinate just like a human. Like, yeah,
I think we've all had like one of the things I find interesting, is when it comes to first party accounts of situations, humans are
mhm.
often wrong.
You know how many times I've Mandela affect myself, Andrew? Like where I
Yeah.
would swear on my life that something was a certain way, and I remember it a certain way, only for that to not even be possible.
I'm looking at you, those Berenstain Bears.
Yeah, right? Like I would lose. I'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to the chopping block because I didn't remember that correctly." Um,
Or
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot. Like even as I get older, like
the
the
monocle with the
Pokemon,
Monopoly man,
right? But sometimes it does change. Like Fruit of the Loom used to have a
the cornucopia. No, that one,
cornucopia.
they will not
And
gaslight me on that.
and then someone found it and they had to backtrack. So look, and here's something I think that is also lost in nuance is that people's opinions can change. What Roberto and I say today might be different in 5 years because we don't know the future. And I think that that's also lost in this conversation is a level of good faith. I have been in conversations where I've just brought up AI and people are like, "How dare you?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm meeting you for the first time. What's with this animosity?"
Right? Yeah, no, I mean, facts, man, facts. I think that it's a brave new world. I think that consumers, there is a vocal, visible minority of consumers who will complain about certain things, but I think mass human behavior will just prove everything. It did with Photoshop. It did with digital. Like there was a point where everyone scrutinized everything. Oh, is that Photoshop? Oh, is it like AI is now the is that Photoshop? It's the new is that Photoshop, and that's just really interesting to observe because now no one really questions like Photoshop or airbrushing or retouching
Mm-hmm.
that much or whatever. Like it's just all right. It's just part of our culture and ubiquitous.
You know the
Everyone knows that
irony.
people use beauty filters, and think about it, everyone knows about the beauty filters in Instagram. It's just, and people used to rage about it. Now it's just we've accepted it as a part of culture. We've all surrendered. Like we all just know that is what it is.
Ironically, Photoshop started being anti-human. Now, when you use Photoshop, they're like, "Well, a human did it." It's so funny how far we've come. Look at it. We've gone the complete
Yeah.
other
Full
direction.
circle, like full circle. Yeah, it's just like okay, it's like, and then it will be, well, and I guarantee you in like 10, 15 years, it'll be, did a human vibe code this, or did the computer tell the computer to write the code? Like that, it'll be that, it'll be, um, how much was a human involved? Just like with the Photoshop thing, it wasn't done by hand. Now, doing it in Photoshop is doing it by hand. Doing it in Toon Boom is doing it by hand. Whereas it used to be, no, if it wasn't frame by frame, hand drawn, 24 pictures, then it's not like computer animation was demonized for the longest. I was there and I was clowned on for liking Reboot because of like the computer animation in Reboot, man, back in the day. People were really like, people used to talk about the horrible CGI in Zoids. Now Zoids is beloved as a classic anime now. It's so weird, right? Um, People used to hate on Pixar. I'm not joking. You can go back and find articles about it. It's weird. You know? And that's probably me, again, as an old timer, as someone like 41 turning 42, I look at this and I roll my eyes. And I'm just like, here we go again. And all of you are gonna like, shut up and use it every day when it gets really good in 5 years. Like everyone complains about everything, man, always.
And look, if your complaints are about around like the planet getting warmer, because look, there are things that are like there are pros and cons here. That is something I personally have a lot of issues with, and like that's why I
Mm.
try to donate more to initiatives to offset.
Sure.
There's still a lot
If
we can
someone believes
do.
that, yeah. If someone believes that, my one pushback on that is, I remember these same arguments about the internet itself in the 1990s, Andrew. Like, I remember this specifically, especially all the Y2K stuff. This might have been before your time too. Um, like, there's always this weird doomsday argument about this kind of thing, Andrew. Do you know the one reason that this was never brought up during the rise of video games and the GPU craze around the electrical use, which massively increased around video games? Do you know why no one has ever gone after video gamers for the amount of energy that is consumed, and for the GPUs and even the data centers around live service games?
No, I don't know.
The sheer mass adoption and voting block and anger that that would generate as a constituency versus the, like, do you realize how much they've backed off of? They had the same argument about crypto until crypto built a lobby that then became really, really aggressive and very well financed and funded and everything like that. The video game industry has so many users that are also very active, very online, very vocal. We're talking about, since the 1990s, cults of people who will line up for Halo around a corner.
True.
Even our geriatric government officials know not to freak around with the gamers, man. Like, they know better. Like,
Well,
it just is a
they've learned the hard way though. But that's where also like that's something that ironically when it comes to AI conversation is like if you're unhappy, thank you for raising your voice, but raise it to the right people as well.
yeah,
Like
fair
our
enough.
voice still matters.
Yeah. Did you, like, you've built water? Have you ever built a water cooled PC?
I have one right here.
When's the last time you had to put water in it or liquid cooling in it?
Again, I'm a unique case. I had to replace mine last year, so very recently.
Out of how many years?
All right, the old one lasted 5.
So, closed loop system, if not for misadventure, it never used up new resources in terms of water, correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Did you know that most data centers that we already have that are also the AI data centers, and that the more even modern ones are even more closed loop system, and that they use less fresh water than even a fraction of the golf courses in America, that a fraction of the golf courses in America use more fresh water than all of our data centers combined?
And that's actually a very fair argument to that point because like there are things that are bigger than this conversation as well. Like if you're upset at anything, look at who's making the decisions, not the individual creators trying to like you're complaining to a lot of small businesses over things that are way above their pay grade.
Oh yeah. Like, think about it. If there's comes to a certain point where every YouTuber, but whether they choose to or not, Or if they don't choose to, it's detrimental for them. Think about it like this, Andrew. If YouTube puts on a toggle switch that does AI audio processing that cleans up everybody's audio, and you have to opt out of it, do you think most YouTubers will opt out of it?
You could argue they already do. There is a new feature that does audio enhancing for you. Like if you go
Hmm.
into settings, but most people don't know it exists right now if you
But I'm
want.
saying if it was turned on by default, though, is what I'm getting at. If it was by default, do you think most creators would opt out of it?
I think most creators don't even know they're already opt in.
Right.
Stable
But if
volume
they
is
could,
on by default.
but if they could, or let me put it to you like this: if everyone got free 4K upscaling, would they opt out of it?
I don't know most would.
I don't think most would either. I don't believe that. So I'm saying, but that would all come from AI probably. So think about it. If if there's a certain point as a YouTuber where if you become anti-technology, you're just working against yourself at a certain point in terms of, because by the way, now you're competing with everyone who opts in and they may have an advantage now that you don't.
And
Remember, yeah, Shorts
Angela
was even that
Denise,
conversation.
YouTube Studio has to clean up the visual and audio on your video. There is an
Yeah.
option. They're adding it.
So if users all then say and start judging content that doesn't do this and says, oh, this doesn't look as good, this doesn't sound as good, is it then worth it to take that stance to then make it harder for yourself to compete just to say I completely disavow AI? Because again, it paints you into a corner, doesn't it? It's an artificial limitation if you die on this hill of I would never, and then it's like, well, because again, you won't be forgiven for nuance if you choose to die on this hill. I always take the stance of I'm open to the new thing. I'm open to the to new technology. I don't like to pull this. I will never do this. I'll never do that
Never is a
because
dangerous word.
if yeah, never is a dangerous word, and most people who use it are wrong. So if I'd rather not paint myself into a corner, remove myself from an option, and then be held accountable to something that no longer makes sense. Like Hermosi hasn't said, I have nothing to sell you in 4 years, and people still harangue him for it. He should have never said it.
And there we are saying never again.
Mhm. Well, in this
But
case, again, I
yeah,
could say never paint yourself into a corner. I could say never
yeah.
take options off the,
But like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
where I'm what we're talking about is a nuanced conversation. And look, speaking of nuance, there are people out there, myself included. I'm leaning AI positive, still on the fence, not sure
yeah.
the long term. But I also don't have to love everything AI. I don't love that RAM is the price it is. I do not love that SSD is the price it is. And that's one of those things that, guess what? They're also being set by humans in price.
Yeah, they can decide, oh, we could take a little bit of a hit on margin here, but they're saying, no, we're not. But they always have done that. And one can argue that the price on those things, Andrew, just met true like lifetime inflation. Think about it like this. How long have video games been locked into this like 59, $69 thing? If they ever moved with the price of everything else, video games would have been $99 a long time ago.
Yeah. But there where the incentive was to sell the system. Like we're seeing it with Pocopia, where people are like, why isn't it coming to the Switch One? It's like you complained there were not enough exclusives. Here's an exclusive.
There'll always be something to complain about, man. Like, and that's my thing. That's why I don't like to. I'm not saying there are never any valid complaints,
No,
but I
of
am saying
course.
you should kind of position yourself to neutralize the thing that the complaint causes in terms of any damage. It's like, because it's largely going to be outside of your control. It's largely going to be above your pay grade. So again, position for maximum advantage. I go, okay, what can I do that is overwhelming to my benefit? Or if I'm going to opt out of something, how do I market and position that as justifying a premium then? You know, I so much don't believe you have to please everyone or be for everyone or always be about mass scale. It could be, what if I have the most if I have a smaller audience but it's extraordinarily loyal because if I positioned, okay, well, I'm going to give myself all these disadvantages, but therefore, if you actually believe what you guys are saying, put your money where your mouth is, support me then. Otherwise, you're going to be making the case that I'm an idiot for taking this stance that you guys say you support, but you won't actually support it.
And I think when it comes down to like choices, I think shout outs to Brennan Lee Mulligan over at Dimension 20. He has a thing where he's playing as Robert Moses, who is one of the big developers of New York City. This all comes around. And he said that he said that you think people make choices. And people think they make choices. They think they're going to choose to go left, they're going to choose to go right. But the reality is we didn't build the roads. The choices for us were made a long time ago. And so when it comes to AI and slop, we have a choice not to make slop. The choice of AI being here was made a long time ago, but the choice to make slop is still up to us as creatives. And then if you feel or getting told you're making slop, that's up to you to review if you feel that is true. The way I use AI, I don't think is slop. I actually have used AI a lot to dumb down what I write because I keep getting told, I use it as like a second. I've told this on this channel.
You're using
I'll
it as a
ask,
copy editor.
I'm using it to make sure it reads at the national average reading level. And I think this is
Fair.
from Livestream Consultant. The AI tech race in image and photography taking, there is one area AI will never be allowed to touch, crime scene photography, which must be taken in RAW at all times and is considered
Yes.
evidence. And I agree with that. But then,
Yeah.
for that use of AI, when I bring up AI being used in medicine to find cancers quicker, to do all these things, no one calls that slop. So that's why I think by saying all AI is slop, it's also dangerous.
I agree. Like we're going to need a new level of digital forensics. We're going to use AI in so much medical technology. We already are. People don't realize that we're speed running a lot of medical breakthroughs. We're only doing that because we can process more data, and we can do that because of AI.
True.
Like, by the way, I can take the trade-off of a little bit of, I mean, especially with all the freaking cold snaps we've had, I can take a marginal increase in global temperatures in exchange for curing everything. If we guarantee cure diabetes, cancer, HIV, all of it, I'm like, all right, you know what? I can have a slightly hotter summer.
And another thing, like when people are very anti AI, like AI didn't create the vaccines for COVID, but it did actually was used to help speed up the flow.
Yeah,
And that
it
got us all
accelerated that.
back.
And that was at the earliest stages of like this AI stuff really ramping up and everything like that. I mean, right now, Andrew, like literally, China is saying that they've cured type 1 and type 2 diabetes, like straight up. And you know how big they are with AI. They're like their whole national platform is pro AI.
Yeah, I mean they're also pro electric
We
vehicles.
don't
They're
Yeah. If we
yeah.
don't do it here, it's just going to get done. So it's just a matter of, do you want to be on the team that gets it and gets to absorb a certain amount of the value, or do you want to like be ad hoc to somebody else when it has it, or and be left behind? It will be get on board or left behind. That's how technology is, Andrew. Everything with technology is get on board or get left behind. They're just trade-offs on that.
I see from Nick Nimmin they are pro advancement. Shout outs
Yeah, they're
Nick.
pro. They're pro acceleration. Yeah, they're accelerationist. Like I don't believe in being decel. I think definitely you should be an accelerationist where you can because it's momentum. The opposite of that is entropy. Entropy, the all devouring void. Like what are you gonna do? Like
Look, I lean more progressive, but ironically, one of the things I've noticed is where my progressive friends are the most conservative is here.
Mhm. Interesting. Say more.
Well, like when it comes to AI, they're like, never, not going to do it, not going to use any form of it. And I'm like, okay, so you're trying to conserve what you know. That's it. And
It's
it's,
because yeah, it's an interesting argument. Like it's a very interesting argument, which is why like I try theoretically within reason. I'm like my ideologically, I just believe in bending to reality. Like ideologically, I bend to reality. I'm like, okay, because I can't fight reality. I can't fight the universe. I can't fight and defy the laws of physics. I can't fight Moore's law. I can't fight Moore's law. I look at the people who fought the adoption of the internet, who said they'd never put a credit card into a computer. Like no, and that was real, dude. That was real. I remember. Oh, you don't have a brick and mortar. You just have a website. You're a fraud. You're a scammer. You're a huckster. Remember that? It wasn't that long ago. It was the 2010s. It was the 2010s when people did not believe in e-commerce. They did not believe in e-commerce in the 2010s.
yeah,
Are you like think about it. Think about everyone who ever shorted Amazon stock and bet against Amazon. Think about that. Think about the fact that people did not believe in eBay. Think about the fact that people did not believe in eBay. People did not believe PayPal, a digital bank. You don't walk in, there's no teller, there's no ATM. That's a scam. If I
Crypto, same thing.
described, if I go back 20 years and I describe the modern state of YouTube and I go back 20 years or even 15 years and I say, okay, there's this website. It's going to give you unlimited video hosting. Unlimited video hosting. Surely there are file size limits. No, no, no major file size limits. The only file size limit is it has to be under a terabyte. A terabyte, like yeah, per video, not your whole account. But are you kidding? It's like yeah. Um, what about the bandwidth cost? They don't charge you for bandwidth. They don't charge you for anything. There's no paywall. There's no paywall. How can they do that? That's astronomical. They must run at a loss. They did for like about 10 12 years. Like,
Yeah.
how can you possibly justify that? It's like, yeah, and they will pay you in ad sharing for it. Like what, 10%? No, 55. What you mean they take 55? No, they give you 55%. What? Really? For why? Why for? And then it's like, okay, there's gotta be a catch. What's the gimmick? This is a scam. No, this is too good to be true. This is a fraud. Like, that's what they would say if I went back even 15 years, 20 years, and described to any adult what YouTube is today. They would say it was a scam, it was a fraud, it is too good to be true, and it will never ever be profitable. That is what they would say if I described YouTube just 15 to 20 years ago. I want you to imagine this. I want you to remember that we used to pay for websites and have a 100 megabyte upload limit for web hosting. We used to pay by the 100 megabyte limit for web hosting. Not
Yeah.
joking. And this was not that long ago, and it was normalized everywhere. Um, it is wild to just think about that. So I want people to then imagine what we are talking about now and just think about where you'll be in 5, 10, 15 years and what somebody describing the future 10 years from now, you would look at it, you'd roll your eyes, and you would say, that's a scam. That's borderline utopian thinking. There's no way that can make money. There's no way that can be true. I don't believe it. Think about it. You'll be looking at technology that is your reality in 5 to 10 years that by today's standards will look like a scam.
And Nick has a great point. You'll be able to upload videos on your phone, and people can watch them like TVs, like shows on TV. Would have been a crazy person thing to say. It is, and
If
like
I said
that.
your life will revolve around your cell phone and you will have a 4K HD quality screen, if I went back to 2005 and told anyone that, they would call me a liar.
And they'd also say YouTube, the dating site.
Right. The video dating site. Like, right.
But like, I think if you want to know what Roberto and I really feel about slop, and this is something we've had a conversation in depth on, if you don't want AI slop, don't make AI slop.
Yeah. It's very simple. Yeah. Like there's no one saying you have to adopt all these things. You can do 100% and it can be in your market or your brand. And that may be a quality over quantity play. Now, again, I'm of the opinion that that's becoming harder to do on YouTube in general, even without AI. I think that the
Yeah.
consumerism of the audience, the consumer demand of the audience has become so voracious, even I couldn't have predicted it. Andrew, I could not believe that we've just gotten to a point to where people will watch 20 hours a week of YouTube without
Yeah.
flinching. And that is real. And when I saw the numbers, I couldn't unsee it. I would have never thought it would have gotten to that level of consumerism, even, and that's post pandemic. That's post pandemic numbers, my friend.
So
That's down. That's the numbers being down.
I know. I was a weird case where I don't know if I've told you this, Roberto, but in my college days they gave me two choices. I could go tried and true traditional filmmaking, which is like linear television and like movie
Yeah.
releases. And back then it was called experimental digital, YouTube and Netflix. And it's funny because nowadays experimental digital sounds crazy because it is TV. Full stop. YouTube has come out and said it. Nielsen, which is what TV uses
Yes.
to rate, it is number one and it's been that way for 3 years. Now, the reason I say that is to say, even in 2012, which at the time of this is 14 years ago, they were wrong. But I had the
Yeah.
foresight to see that this is where it was going. And that
Yep.
was me making a bet. And that's the thing I would tell you. If you want to bet on all humans, all human created, I don't think it's a bad thing to bet that way. But
Yeah.
don't stop the people who want to make the bet the other way. Give the
You
choice.
You can do Hollywood, just don't crap on somebody for doing Netflix. Like you can do old school thing. Like think about it. Think about everyone who said that Netflix shouldn't be at the Oscars and Netflix. Well, the industry had to bend to reality because the consumer said we value these things just as much.
And
Like
speaking of the
that's
Oscars, YouTube now hosts
YouTube.
it.
YouTube has the rights to the Oscar, like that. YouTube bought the rights to the Oscars. The little website that could, the little website that Viacom tried to sue into oblivion and litigated for 7 years, now has the rights to that. It's YouTube's revenge, man. I love it. I love it.
And look, this is still the best platform to make a living on by far, and it's free. You want to know what people, like you said, Roberto, people wouldn't believe it's free in 2005.
Yeah. No, dude. The stuff that's free, the sheer amounts of free hosting that we have, the
The
sheer
free
amounts of
data we get.
free data. Dude, I remember paying by the text message.
Oh
Dude, I
yeah.
paid by the text message.
Oh,
Jeez,
9 p.m. would hit though.
like, oh my God. And then 9 p.m., we all up now. Yeah. Like
Yep.
we're like free nights and weekends. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. That was the game, right? I remember these things like very much so. For me, it was yesterday, old man internet over here. But I mean, I think people are drastically underestimating also how fast all of this like turns around. That's a real phenomenon, and that we're flexing our age now for real on that free nights and weekends. But dude, think about it like this: like remember having to scrimp and save and how much it was or borrowing people's thumb drive with
Oh
just
man.
um 100 megs, like 200 megs. Now getting of like freaking 500 gig thumb drive is like 20 bucks, 15 bucks, even with the prices up now. It's wild, dude. I remember dial up and DSL, and now we're like looking at like Wi-Fi speeds where you get 500 up, 500 down,
I
like
know.
reasonable prices too. Like we'll have like true gigabit wireless rock bottom rates in our lifetime, man. Like it's nuts.
And that's the thing. Technology comes, it goes, it grows, and you choose how to use it. And I never want to take that choice away from people who want to use AI, and I don't want to take the choice away from people who don't want to watch it. I'm not here to
Let the
pull the
market
ladder
decide.
up. Yeah,
Yeah, let the
I'm not
market
here to
decide.
pull the ladder up out from behind me. Look, we're always advancing, sometimes in the right way, and what Nick said I think is true. It will sort itself out.
It'll sort itself out. That's why I'm saying it'll sort itself out. There will just be some things that are AI that are really good. Like nothing, even if it's made by AI or not, can only be as good as the human input. So AI slop will sort itself out. And the thing is, you either believe and trust human consumers and the market, or you don't. And
True.
if you don't, that's a position you can take. And I'm not even against that position. Look, I'm not exactly Mr. Populism here. So you can take that position of saying, well, I don't trust people at scale to make good choices and to have good taste. That's fine. I will always tell you, look, the average person didn't appreciate art. Most of your favorite artists whose work makes you cry weren't appreciated in their time. They died penniless and in poverty. But here's the thing today, with today's technology, maybe they'd be gods, maybe they'd be rich, maybe they'd be billionaires. Like, think about it. So, but only if they would embrace the opportunity in front of them. And then there'd be
True.
some who resist it, and then maybe they'd be famous for that resistance. Who knows? But you gotta let the chips fall where they may. But it comes down to you will either trust the consumer to have taste, or you really just don't. And either position is fine, but just act accordingly and just know where you stand on that.
Fair enough. And if they want to stand on learning more Roberto knowledge, where could they stand? Where can they find Mr. Roberto Blake?
They could find me at Roberto Blake everywhere on social media. You can also find me youtube.com/at Roberto Blake. Or if you want to work with me, join awesomecreatoracademy.com. We meet twice a week in the pro group, or you can work with me one on one.
And you can also find Roberto here every Saturday on the Opus Clip YouTube channel. And if you have a topic you'd like to see us discuss, please let us know. Let us know what your thoughts are on Slop. But as always, the best thing you can do right now is just go out and start creating and create the way that makes the most sense to you. If you don't like Slop, don't create Slop. Take care, everyone.